All right, everyone, because it is the top of the hour, we are going to get started to respect everyone's time. My name's Andromeda, and I'm one of the admissions counselors at Montana State University. I'll be hosting a short Q&A at the end of this webinar to get some of those important questions answered for you. But first, we'd like to start with some instructions to anyone who is unable to hear me at this time. Feel free to take a photo of this slide if you need, but you can call the numbers below to join the webinar audio from your phone. So I'll give you guys a second to do that if you need. This information can also be found in the emails sent to you. But tomorrow we will be sending an email with the webinar recording to everyone who has registered for tonight's webinar if you do need to reference back to anything mentioned tonight. We will also be posting the webinar on our webinar webpage. There will be a short Q&A at the very end of the webinar tonight, but if you have any questions that come up during this time, feel free to use the Q&A feature rather than the chat. Our chat tonight is only enabled for our admissions staff to add in any important details and links for you to access, but the Q&A feature will allow our admissions staff tonight to answer your questions directly. In order to access this Q&A, you're going to hover down at the bottom right-hand side of your screen, right where those three white dots are. It'll say panel options, and you can click on those white three dots and then click Q&A. That should open the Q&A box for you to add in any of those questions that you'd like immediately answered tonight. If you want to make sure the Q&A is working for you, feel free to type in where you're joining us from live into that Q&A. Next, we truly really want to thank each and every single one of you, prospective students and family members, for taking the time to join us tonight. We know there are a lot of things that you need to consider when making your finals decisions, especially for you current seniors and for any other students who are just starting their college search. We're really excited to share some of the things we and our students love about Bozeman, our community, and our campus life with this Life Outside the Classroom webinar tonight. I am going to be handing this off to our amazing presenter tonight, Anders Groseth. He's going to deep dive into what student life is like at MSU.
Thank you, Andromeda. And thank you to all of you. Thank you all so much for taking some time to join us this evening. Throughout the year with our whole Webinar Wednesday series, we've talked a lot about different opportunities. We've talked about academic opportunities. We've talked about opportunities to live on campus. We've talked about research and diversity and inclusion efforts. This is a session as you're nearing making your final college decision. This webinar is really all about you all in making that final decision outside of the classroom. And that's such a huge part of the university experience, is what goes on outside of the classroom. So for those of you who are joining us this evening, I'm hoping that at this point I'm getting to be a familiar face, or at least a familiar name for all of you. But for those of you who this is the first time that we're crossing paths, my name is Anders Groseth. I work as the Associate Director of Recruitment here in the Office of Admissions at Montana State University. I get to work with an incredible team of admissions counselors who are online this evening to help answer those questions that you're putting into the Q&A. They're going to be providing information through that chat feature as well in terms of links and helpful information. But I really want to thank them for their time, because their engagement through that Q&A feature can really be helpful in terms of answering pointedly some of the questions that you all have. For a little bit about my background with Montana State University, I'm born and raised in Bozeman. I grew up just a couple of blocks from campus, so I kind of grew up in the shadow of the university, and it gave me this wonderful experience throughout my time with Montana State of first being aware of Montana State University, then getting to know about some of its opportunities, and then when it came time for me to be in your shoes right now and make that final college decision, this is where I ended up wanting to come. I spent 4 years here as an undergraduate student. I graduated back in 2008, and then I've been working in the Office of Admissions ever since I graduated. So you can see I'm a big Bobcat football fan. I'm a supporter of all of our different athletics programs. I'm a supporter of all of our different student clubs and organizations, and everything that makes the student experience really what it is at Montana State University. And I'm thrilled to be able to spend some time with you this evening detailing what some of those opportunities are. So a little bit of an overview about what I hope to cover this evening. For anyone who's joining us, if you haven't been to Bozeman yet, bragging about my hometown is one of my absolute favorite things to do, and so I'm going to spend some time doing it. I want to talk about the area, the place that we get to call home, talking about our community, both on and off campus, the place that surrounds us. So we do live in an outdoor playground. We are very fortunate to live where we live in terms of the recreational opportunities and those opportunities to blow off steam when you need to do so. I want to talk about the engagement opportunities and avenues that we have on our campus, whether that's academic engagement opportunities through research-based pursuits, or getting involved with a club or organization, or supporting the Bobcats, anything that really builds the culture and community of our campus outside the classroom. And then last but not least, I want to spend some time talking about how important we know it is for you to be what we consider a well student. We need you to feel supported. We need you to feel safe on campus. We need you to feel like this is a place that you can call home. And Montana State University is in a phenomenal position right now to be forward thinking in terms of some of our student wellness efforts and some of the things that we do to make sure that you have that Maslow's hierarchy of needs. You know, you're going to have a roof over your head, you're going to have food that powers you inside the classroom, and then you're going to have the support of an entire campus community, an entire Bozeman community behind you to make sure that, again, you feel like this is a place to call home. So, and in that place, as I mentioned, one of my favorite things to do is brag about my hometown, Bozeman, Montana. For those of you who have been before, I hope you left town feeling, or that you know, for those of you who are joining from the Bozeman area, I hope you recognize what an incredible and special place this is. For anyone who has not been before, Bozeman is located down in the southwest corner of our state. Geographically, if you want to kind of ballpark where we are, we're 90 miles directly north of Yellowstone National Park. And so when I mentioned earlier that we are fortunate to live in that outdoor playground, I mean it. And I'll talk about some of those outdoorsy opportunities here in a second. But the community of Bozeman is about 60,000 people. It makes us the fourth largest community in the state of Montana. Actually, at one of our student leadership courses this evening, I heard from the director of our facilities department at Montana State, a guy named EJ Hook. And for those of you students who end up coming to school here and enrolling, EJ is the person that makes the physical place, our campus, as special, as well kept, and as efficient as it possibly can be. But one of the things that EJ said to our class this evening, and I thought was so interesting, is that if you look at the entire state of Montana, we're a massive geographical space. We're the fourth largest state in the United States of America, but our entire state accounts for about 1 million people. So we're a very sparsely populated space. There's a lot of empty and open spaces, public lands to get involved with. But if you look at the community of Montana State University specifically, if you were to break down the barriers of our campus, our university is the 8th largest community in the state of Montana. And that student body population feeds into Bozeman being the 4th largest community in the state of Montana. So you can see that the surrounding area is just over 100,000 people. So we kind of get to play that middle ground of being both big and small at the same time. Big for our state, really comparatively to across the country, we're a small community. And I think that really helps students feel that sense of home here and feel those welcoming open arms and handshakes and smiles and a slow pace to life. It's a relaxed place to be, which I think goes a long way. So for anyone joining us this evening who would be coming in from out of state, transportation is always a consideration for students and for families as they're making that final college decision. Bozeman, Montana has the largest airport in the state of Montana. Bozeman Yellowstone International Airport is where you'd be flying into for those of you who choose to do so. And there's a 30-20-10 correlation. Bozeman Yellowstone International Airport currently has 30 direct flights to 20 different communities using 10 different airlines. And so I always stop short of saying that Bozeman is an easy place to get to, but with more and more flights coming in and out each and every day, it's getting easier to get to, which I think is again a direct correlation to the students who have started to knock on our door from different parts of the country. And I'll talk about that here in a little bit. Continuing with the theme of transportation, we see that in any year's first year class, about 50% of our students choose to bring vehicles. That's one thing that's important for all of you to know, is that at Montana State University, we have no restriction on a student, even in their first year, having a vehicle on campus. That's not really our place. That's a family decision. But for those of you who will end up coming to school here and not bringing your vehicle, Bozeman has a free public transportation system. Actually, if you let me bear with me for just 1 second. That right out there, which I hope you can see, that's our streamlined bus system. That is our free public transportation system. Our building, the Student Union building, is the main stop for it on campus. There is stops all throughout the Bozeman community. That bus system will get you to the movie theater. It'll get you to the downtown area, to some of our commercial shopping. There's pickups and drop-offs outside of every different residence hall. And then, as I mentioned, the Student Union building here on campus where our office is, that's the main stop at the university. So it's a really accessible community where if you don't bring a vehicle that first year, you're not stranded. It's a very easy community to navigate. So the commercial shopping areas that I was just mentioning, again, for those of you who have been to Bozeman, you've probably spent some time in two different locations in Bozeman, Montana. I describe Bozeman as having two different main streets. We have our Main Street, which I'm going to take a minute to talk about here momentarily, but we also have 19th Street, and 19th Street is what I refer to as Big Box Main Street. And that's where you're going to find some of those name brands that you know and love from wherever it is that you call home. We've got the Targets and the Costco's and the Home Depot and Lowe's and the chain restaurants. And I think it's really important that we do have those things. And the reason that I say that is that for a student who might be coming all the way from the Eastern Seaboard or from the South or from maybe from Hawaii or Alaska, it's nice to get to a place that you're not very familiar with and automatically see those things that you are familiar with. You know, oh, Target sells this thing, and now I know where to go to get that. Or I need to go to Costco to use mom and dad's account and card. I know where to go to get there. And so those commercial shopping areas, I think, are really important in terms of that initial sense of familiarity. But then once you get that sense of familiarity, that's when this heart of Bozeman really comes into play. That's our Main Street, and it's a really special place. The downtown Bozeman area is entirely locally owned, and so that's where you're going to find what we mean by when we talk about local Bozeman. This is where you're going to find the local coffee shops and the restaurants and the record store and the clothing stores and things like that. And so when you first get here, those name brands, those logos that you recognize are important to welcome you in. But then once you have your feet underneath you, that's when you get to do your exploring. That, you know, what's my coffee shop going to be, and where am I going to go to eat with my friends on the weekends or weeknights or whatever the case might be. And that's really where our downtown comes into play. Some of the things that are listed on here kind of represent the cultural sense of what we are as a college community. Again, with that roughly 60,000 people that live here, about 17,000 of them are college students. And so the outlets that this community has really reflect a student body population. We're talking live music. We have a wonderful live music scene for those of you who enjoy going to concerts and catching shows. Some of the things that we list on this slide here. Theaters like the Elm or the Rialto, those are going to host all age shows. There's very, very rarely a 21 and over show in Bozeman, Montana, because we know that a lot of students that are at Montana State aren't 21 and over. And so it's an open access. So if you're sitting in your residence hall room and you hear about a show or you hear about a group that you follow that's coming to Bozeman, there's very rarely that restriction of it being 21 and over. So you can go that very first year to keep getting engaged with the community overall. So the other things that are important about our Main Street, it really reflects kind of the town and gown relationships, those relationships that we have between the university itself and the community of Bozeman. We take a lot of pride in being a good community member, and that's the university as a whole. And as a thank you, Bozeman really celebrates you as a student, celebrates the university. So whether it's things like our annual homecoming parade or the community catwalk that you'll have an opportunity to engage with, the community catwalk is a fun start to the year. It's something that our president, Dr. Cruzado, started when she got here. And that is where we celebrate the local businesses that make this such a special place. And local businesses reciprocate by throwing up paint in their windows and signs that say, "We love our Bobcats" and "Welcome back to campus" and things like that. Bozeman will find any reason that we possibly can to shut down Main Street and have a party. So whether that's through our summer concert series with Music on Main or the homecoming parade or anything in between, you'll find that relationship between Bozeman and MSU is very special. We're a college town. We are not just a town with a college. And there's a very specific difference between those two descriptors. So In regards to once you take that step out from the Bozeman community, again, we live in this outdoor playground that provides students a lot of outlets to blow off their steam productively. If you looked out my window right now, once you head south, you're going to find this place that's on the left-hand side of your screen, Highlight Reservoir and Highlight Canyon. That's the largest recreational space that we have in the Bozeman area. The reservoir is a no motor reservoir, so that's where when the weather is nice as it's starting to be right now, that's where you'll find students that are going up and paddleboarding, and that's where you'll find canoeing and kayaking, rock climbing in the canyon all the way up there, and then hikes that'll take you to some of the most incredible views that we have. If you put about an hour bubble around Bozeman, Montana, we are surrounded by 5 different mountain ranges, 5 different river systems, and those 5 different mountain ranges are home to 2 of the nation's best ski hills, inarguably. You're going to find Bridger Bowl, which is 16 miles from campus, so it takes 20 minutes to get there on any given day, and that's to the north of Bozeman. And as you go south of Bozeman, if you were driving in between Bozeman and Yellowstone National Park, the exact midway point, halfway in between the two, is Big Sky. And a lot of folks have heard of Big Sky. It's one of the largest ski hills in the United States of America. More of a resort hill, whereas Bridger Bowl is more the local hill, but just incredible opportunities. And for those of you students who are wondering, which is the better of the two, honestly, if you were walking around campus right now and just did an informal straw poll and asked students, where do you go? Where do you go? So on and so forth, it's about a 50-50 split. Bridger Bowl has a shuttle that goes every single day that's completely free for the Bozeman community. It does stops on campus. It stops at the Gallatin County Fairgrounds, and then it goes up to Bridger Bowl, and that's its route. And then Big Sky has started kind of subsidizing a shuttle where there's this thing called the Skyline bus system. And the Skyline bus system is an opportunity for students to buy a student pass. You can buy a 10-time pass for what I believe is now $50. So it's essentially $5 up, $5 back on any given day, which just makes it really accessible, even if it is a little bit further away. So Bozeman, Montana is also recognized as a top trails community. We have a 100-mile trail system that navigates and interweaves throughout the entire Bozeman community called the Main Street to the Mountains. And the purpose of it is that if you start in town, we want you to be able to access any outdoor opportunity that we have in the surrounding area. So if you go in back of me about 3 blocks right now, what you're going to find is a trailhead right by campus. And that trailhead is an entry point to the Main Street to the Mountains trail system, and it's a spider web. It goes in every different direction. So if you want to do some of our more popular hikes in the Bozeman area, like the M or Drinking Horse, 3 blocks behind me, you can get there from our campus. It'll also get you to Highlight or anywhere in between. So if you're a trail runner, if you're a biker, if you just want to go on a walk with your roommate to blow off steam, it's a really easy place to get outside, not necessarily be on a sidewalk, but get some of that natural feel of the Bozeman community. And then last but not least is the river systems that I mentioned. We have 5 different rivers that surround the Bozeman community, and that's going to be the Yellowstone River as you head east in the next community over called Livingston. And then about 30-ish minutes to the west of Bozeman, you're going to find a community called Three Forks. And Three Forks, Montana is the convergence of the Gallatin, Jefferson, and Madison rivers. Those 3 rivers come together to create the Missouri River. The Missouri River eventually flows into the Mississippi, which then eventually flows into the Gulf of Mexico. So we have a point of pride that about 30 minutes off of our campus grounds is the origin point of many of the waterways of the United States of America. They kind of all start in our backyard. So those outdoor opportunities, as I mentioned, they're innumerous. And so if you are that student who that's kind of maybe even how we ended up on your radar is those outdoor opportunities, welcome home. This is your place. But going back to that kind of cultural identity of being that college town that I talked about on the slide previously, we're also a place that is home for students. The live music, the wonderful restaurants, the vibrant visual and performing arts communities. And so it's about balance. Not every student that comes to school here wants to pursue these outdoorsy opportunities. Not every student wants to pursue going to a concert on a Friday night or eating out with their friends on the weekends. That's the balance that this community really provides, is both in the community and just outside of it. So moving forward, weather. When I was looking at the list of registrations of folks that chose to join us this evening, I was looking at where everyone's from. all over the country. One of the things that really makes Montana State University unique is that we have students representing every single state across the union. We have 60, I think it's actually 70 different countries represented in terms of our international student population. And so when you're coming from different parts of the country, weather is always a consideration. And so these pictures are sort of funny to show you the variance in terms of the weather that we have in Bozeman. We average traditionally about 86 inches of snowfall in town. If you go up to that Bridger Bowl ski hill that I was mentioning earlier, Bridger Bowl averages right around 350 inches of snowfall, and then Big Sky, as you head south, will average right around 400. So we're a winter community. It's one of the things that makes this place so special. We're also really good at managing snow removal, and making sure that this is a campus that you can navigate even in those December and January months. So as you flip that on its head, when you get into our summer season, and we're very much in spring season right now, Bozeman's a beautiful community in that spring and summer. Average temperature is just over 80 degrees in our warmest month, and that's in July. But as I'm looking at my weather on my computer right now, we're just under 70 degrees right now. So we always kind of round out the school year on a high note in terms of the weather. Regardless of the season, be it fall, be it winter, spring, or summer, if you look at the full calendar year, Bozeman, Montana averages right around 300 days of sunshine. And so even as somebody who's from Bozeman, Montana, born and raised, I'm not a winter person. I'm a summer person. I would always rather have it be July than January. The sunshine, the high clouds, and the big valley that we live in make this a very easy place to get to, or to kind of thrive in, I suppose, regardless of what season is yours. As somebody who enjoys the warm weather better, in the middle of winter, I can crack my blinds in the morning and I can see that the sun is shining. And that makes it a lot easier to just get up and get moving in the right direction. And so those 300 days of sunshine, I think, really, really go to bat for students that maybe aren't super familiar with the winter seasons coming from, any other parts of the country. It still makes it a place that, kind of has your energy going at all times. As we kind of start to focus on the opportunities, not just in the Bozeman community, but on campus, the academic pursuits are one of the things that we take a huge deal of pride in. That's the point of you coming to Montana State, is for your education. And the style of education, I think, is one of the things that really sets Montana State University apart. We have been recognized as an R1 institution as designated by something called the Carnegie Foundation. For anyone who's not familiar, the Carnegie Foundation is essentially, they're an institute that assesses the strengths and highlights of colleges and universities all across the country. And one of their designations is research-based education. There's 146 schools nationwide out of a list of just over 4,000 that the Carnegie Foundation has recognized as being an R1 institution, or an institution with very high research activity. And MSU is fortunate enough that we are on that list. We really don't want students to get here and bury themselves in textbooks. I have the opinion of it that if you read something out of a textbook, the reason that it's in the textbook to begin with is because somebody already knows it. That's how it ended up on paper. The whole point of you coming to college and having your university experience is for whatever field of study excites you. We want you to figure out what we don't know yet. That's how we progress forward. And so every single degree program that we offer at Montana State, be it the creative arts, be it health sciences, engineering, business, or education, every student, in order to earn their diploma and their degree from Montana State, you are required to do some form of original research or creative experience before we're going to let you walk across stage and receive your diploma from Dr. Cruzado. That is how we keep things moving forward. That's how we keep things fresh. We want you to get your fingernails dirty. We want you to have a tactile approach to your education so that by the time you graduate, there's not much training that needs to be done once you step into your career field or pursue further education. We're going to get your wheels moving in the right direction far before that. And for some students, that research experience starts as early as their first year on campus. MSU spends a lot of money. We spend a lot of money and time and effort on our research opportunities. For the 5th consecutive year, this last academic year, we broke our research expenditure record. Last year, we surpassed $230 million on student research opportunities, and that makes us the largest research entity in the entire state of Montana. So again, thinking forward, don't just go through the motions, but be an active participant in your academic pursuits. The Carnegie Foundation has also recognized Montana State University as being a unique institution as having a very high undergraduate profile and having a significant commitment to community engagement. Again, we take a lot of pride in being a good community member with Bozeman, Montana. We're not something that is apart from, we are a part of this overall community. And that undergraduate student profile, I think, is hugely unique in terms of how much money we spend on research and how highly regarded we are as a research-based institution. If you look at those 17,000 students that call MSU home, we have just over 2,000 graduate students. And so from coast to coast, nationwide, the students that oftentimes get to have their hands-on research opportunities are graduate students pursuing that second degree, sometimes even doctorate students pursuing their second or third degree. At MSU, we front load those opportunities. We really value having research built into the undergraduate curriculums. So like I said, if you end up pursuing a master's or a doctorate degree, or once you leave MSU, you jump right into your career field and start your professional career, we want you to have some experience in doing that, what you're someday going to do for a paycheck. We want you to do it as an undergraduate student, but just for credit in the meantime. So kind of a unique approach to academic experiences. That's not just the classroom environment, but it's labs, it's research and field work to make sure that you are the most engaged student that you can be. As we're looking forward, academics is still a huge part of the student experience, but it comes from student support. And so for some of you who are joining us this evening, a couple weeks ago, we hosted a webinar, the recording of which is on our Webinar Wednesday homepage, and it was hosted by Dr. Karina Beck. She's the Vice Provost for Student Success at Montana State University, and she's the director of the Alan Yarnell Center for Student Success. What this center does is in their name. Everything that they focus on, everything that they are dedicated to is ensuring that from the very first day that you set foot on campus to the day that you walk across stage and get that diploma, as I keep mentioning, we want you to feel supported and we want you to feel like every resource is at your fingertips in order for you to succeed. And so whether that's when you're getting ready to graduate, you can utilize the services of their career and internship services. If you are trying to navigate the financing of your college career and your university experience, they have an Office of Financial Education. They do mock interviews. They sponsor peer tutoring models called the Smarty Cats program. And that's a unique opportunity where some of our students who are current students can get paid to be tutors, but who's paying them is not you as a student, but it's the Alan Yarnell Center for Student Success. And so a one-on-one hour-long tutoring session with one of our Smarty Cats tutors is $2. They do free group tutoring as well. And so you'll see that there's all sorts of resources, I should say, that will ensure that whatever it is, if it's the transition from high school to college, if it's helping get you on the right foot to eventually leave Montana State with a job offer in your hand, or just the academic pursuits in between while you're here, we want to make sure that we have done everything that we can to put that structure around you, to build that support system that every single student needs, regardless if they know it or not. And the Alan Yarnell Center for Student Success, or once you become a Bobcat, you'll get to know it as AYCSS. This is a endless box of tools that you'll have at your fingertips all the way throughout. Moving forward from that, it's getting involved on campus. This is something that I am incredibly passionate about talking about, because for any of you who are joining me this evening that are those rising freshmen, that next generation of Bobcats, for many of you, you've started to hear about living on campus. Our housing, our university student housing, I beg your pardon, has started to send out housing assignments in terms of what halls and what rooms students are going to be living in. For any of you who have not received that information yet, the next batch of housing assignments is going to be going out to students in the first part of May. So don't feel like you've missed that opportunity. For those of you who have received your housing assignments, you received your room and hall information, but not your roommate information yet. That's also going to be coming out in that first part of May. So just to kind of set the scene a little bit about some of the information that you can expect coming your way moving forward. But aside from just living on campus, this is a really active campus community. And it starts with our Office of Student Engagement, or OSE, as it's known to our current students. But the Office of Student Engagement sponsors right around 250 different student clubs and organizations. And these will hit the interest points of every single student on our campus. If you're interested in looking into fraternity or sorority life or student government, or maybe you want to have a show at the radio station, KGLT is our campus radio station, we have some of the traditional things that a lot of campuses across the country will have to get you outside of the classroom, to get you outside of your residence hall room, to be that active participant in the campus community. But we also have some of the unique opportunities to help you gravitate towards students with your similar interests. Maybe you want to get involved with the Cats for Canines Club. That's a group of students on our campus that dedicates time to cleaning the dog parks and walking animals throughout the Bozeman community. We have a Brownie Club on campus. It's exactly what it sounds like. It's a group of students who gets together weekly. They make brownies and eat them. That's their entire different student organization. But that is what builds community. I mentioned earlier that we're represented by at least one student from all 50 states. And actually, this year's first year class is the first class in Montana State University's history that in one single class, we had at least one student from all 50 states. But because it's such a wide net of students that are coming here, we have a lot of students show up and they don't know anybody. We have a lot of students who show up and when they move on to campus, that's actually the first time that they've been to our campus. And so we are very intentional about the opportunities that are provided to help you introduce yourselves to one another and start to build your own micro communities within the MSU community. And when I was saying earlier that this is such a passion point for mine, and why I tied that into living on campus is because when I lived on campus as a freshman, I chose to live with my best friend from high school. We grew up together during our senior year. We both knew that we were going to go to school at Montana State. And when we started living together, we were each other's social circle. We, like I said, we had this long-standing tie with one another. And after about a month or so, we started to realize that we were spending too much time with one another. And we needed to break off and do different things to build our own pathways and to build our own communities. And the Office of Student Engagement is exactly how my roommate and I are still friends to this day. I got involved with things that I was interested in. He got involved with things that he was interested in, and it allowed us to grow our own community without relying so much on each other. And so those opportunities to pursue what we call the co-curricular experience at Montana State, they are a huge part of my story with Montana State, as I know they're going to be a huge part of your story at Montana State once you get here. So with the Office of Student Engagement, they're also kind of the hub for the Associated Students of Montana State University, or ASMSU. That's our student government on campus. And between the Office of Student Engagement and ASMSU, you're going to find the three pillars of student engagement, and that is the Associated Students. That's our campus events and programs. Actually, I meant to say this earlier. This is such a funny night for us to be hosting this outside the classroom webinar. If you all hear any distortion coming through in the ballrooms right next door to our office, there's actually a student concert going on this evening, and that's part of a campus event and programs with on-campus concerts. They bring in comedians and hypnotists each year. And then there's community engagement. And that's kind of more of that community building aspect with our breaks away events and our service Saturdays, our Can the Grizz, which is sort of a friendly competition that we have with the University of Montana that centers around our rivalry football game, the Brawl of the Wild, each year. The two communities do a joint food or a drive to raise food and funds for local and community food banks throughout the state of Montana. It's always Bozeman against Missoula, Montana State against the University of Montana. And so it's a little bit of that competition. But if you look at the end game of that, that's just making the state better. That's making our communities better. And it really starts with those student-driven efforts. So the Office of Student Engagement, I can't say enough about them. Their staff is phenomenal. The students that run their offices are phenomenal. And they have the kind of distinct pleasure of having the most significant thumbprint on what it means to be a Bobcat outside of the classroom. Moving forward from here, I talked a little bit about Bobcat athletics. In the state of Montana, athletics are a big deal for us and kind of a funny deal for us. I mentioned the entire state, we have about 1 million people. So we don't have any pro sports teams. As of somebody who grew up here, it's nice because if you are a professional sports fan, you just get to pick whatever team you want to root for. You don't have any geographical tie to one specific team. But our college teams, our university teams, our Division I teams really are the pro sports for the state of Montana. You'll find that the community of Montana really rallies around our Division I athletics programs. So just off the top of my head here real quick, our Division I athletics for Bobcat Athletics are men's, women's basketball, football, volleyball, track and field, tennis, golf, rodeo, skiing, and then we have a cheer squad or a spirit squad as well, which is cheer and dance. So great opportunities for you all who might not be athletes. Go and support your peers and classmates that are competing. And one of the things that makes that very easy to do is that tickets are free. You as a student, you don't have to pay to go to any athletic event at Montana State University. That's a huge difference from when I was in school here. We used to have to pay an athletics fee, and it was sort of like a prepay system that we would pay at the very beginning of every year. And once we had paid the fee, then we had paid to go to the football games or go to a volleyball match or whatever the case might be. Again, I mentioned her earlier, but when Dr. Cruzado, our president, got to campus, that was actually one of the very first things that she did away with. She really values that balanced university experience, and she looked at things to say, if you're a student who's paying tuition to enroll in classes at Montana State, that pays for you to be the active student that you are. So you don't have to pay to join a student club or organization. You don't have to pay to go to athletic events. We want you to get outside the classroom, to get outside your residence hall room and really make this place yours. So one kind of step down from the Division I athletics is club sports. When I was talking about those 250 different student clubs and organizations, we are building a really strong tradition of success in our club sport programs. And these would be less time intensive than a varsity athletic program. They're not scholarship sports, but they are intercollegiate. And so if you pursue some of the opportunities, maybe through our club rugby program, lacrosse, hockey, baseball, so on, you have an opportunity to compete against students from different colleges and universities in our region. You'll compete against schools in Idaho and Washington and Wyoming and Utah and Colorado. So it kind of lets you sink your teeth into something and remain competitive as much as possible, but it doesn't become as much of a time hindrance. And that makes D1 athletics seem like a bad thing, but it gives you that opportunity to balance the student and the athletics opportunities that we have. And then kind of at the very bottom of your screen right now, then you're going to have intramurals. And this is what I did. This is what you'll find nearly every student at Montana State involves themselves in some sort of intramural sport, because we do the traditional ones like the volleyball and the basketball and the softball and so forth. But then we have esports as intramural sports. We do cornhole or bags or whatever you might call it based on your region of the country. That's an intramural sport for us. And so for any intramural sport that we do, we have 4 different leagues. And the 4 different leagues are, there's either a single gender or a co-ed. And then within either of those, there's a recreational or a competitive. And so if you want to be on a single gender competitive basketball team, you can do that. Or if you just want to get to know people from your floor, maybe the recreational side is a good opportunity. And so going back to my living on campus experience, when I lived on campus, I lived on an all-male floor, and the floor that was below ours was an all-female floor. And so that's how we got to know people that we were living around, is we just did co-ed for everything, and we would get with the all-girls floor right below us and figure out what people wanted to do, and we would put together a team. And so again, it kind of has an opportunity to put something on your calendar so that you know every Thursday night you're going to be playing an intramural volleyball game or a basketball game, but it's more social than anything else. And so it is kind of, again, a community builder. And so the community of athletics at MSU, whether you're a fan in the stands for our varsity athletic programs, whether you're competing intercollegiately with club, or you're just blowing off steam through intramural sports, you'll find that culture and community of athletics has a pretty significant thumbprint on Montana State. Next up is one of the efforts that has been truly transformational for Montana State University in the time that I've been involved with this campus community, is the efforts that have been made to ensure that every single student knows that Montana State University is and will be a place for them. And that's our diversity, equity, and inclusion efforts. Now, a little bit of a story behind this. The president at the university, Dr. Cruzado, she has what she calls her executive cabinet. And that is kind of her inner circle. They're the most important people on campus. And in her tenure, one of the positions that has been added to her executive cabinet is MSU's first ever Chief Diversity Officer. Um, and this position has really provided the first domino in a string of successes at Montana State to make sure that we are not just representative of the state of Montana, but really the United States as a whole. And one of those things that is very student driven is in the top right hand corner of your screen right now, and that's our Diversity and Inclusion Student Commons. This is a dedicated space to celebrate and connect students from different cultural backgrounds, maybe different ethnic backgrounds, religious backgrounds, and to celebrate what makes us different instead of shy away from it. And so some of the things that are mentioned on here that I want to specifically point out is in that training and education session. One of the things is sustained dialogue. Sustained dialogue is an effort from the Diversity and Inclusion Student Commons that brings students who are interested in having discussions with those who might appear different from one another to establish that ground of what does make us different should be celebrated, and then start to identify that we're really not that different. We're students at the university level, and we have a lot more in common than we have that differentiate us from one another. And so this is a student-led space. Like I keep mentioning, they do have a professional program coordinator, but when it comes to specific student organizations like our Black Student Union or the American Indian Council at Montana State University, these are student-led efforts. The position of the Chief Diversity Officer has been very important, but if we don't have the buy-in from students, the traction really never gets there. And so over the years, one of the things that we have been very proud about is that if you look at student enrollment from students that represent backgrounds and cultural identities of our Asian Pacific Islander students, our Black and African American students, our Latina and Latino students, and then our largest, what's considered an underrepresented student population is our American Indian students. Each one of those student populations continues to grow at Montana State University. And it is student driven, but I do think that Dr. Cruzado's effort of adding that executive cabinet member, like I said, that really was the first domino that really signified that Montana State University is not just a state institution, but we're a state institution that represents and supports students no matter where you're coming from, backgrounds that you have, worldviews and experiences. We want to celebrate the students that make this such an amazing place. And so our diversity and inclusion student commons is a huge piece of that puzzle. So moving forward, so now we're going to paint the picture. You've all fallen in love with Montana State University. You've come out, you've decided to be a Bobcat, and then you move to campus. The MSU debut program is something that was put into place several years ago. And if I'm going to be perfectly honest with you, for the students that are joining us this evening, the whole reason that MSU debut was put into place is we wanted to have you have no excuse to call home, to call mom or dad and say, this place is boring. There's nothing that's going on here. So MSU debut was sparked several years ago, and it is a 6-week calendar of events that starts each semester at Montana State. Not each school year, each semester. We do it twice a year. And it's the calendar of events that will cover everything from, we do board game nights, we do our annual Gold Rush football game. That's the first home football game that we host every single year. You can see the students in that picture up in the right-hand corner. Every student gets a yellow shirt. It's a design contest. It's a student design contest that they get to make the design for the shirt each year. But then there's also things like the M photo, and the M photo is actually where that picture is taken, that top right-hand picture. And that is one of the very first times that our entire first year class will be together all as one before they spread out throughout their 4 years and then come back together for graduation. There's the Bookstore Blitz, which is a promotional opportunity from MSU's bookstore to get your swag, to get your textbooks, start the school year off right. There's a movie on the lawn. There's so many different opportunities. Most important, in my opinion, of which is the third bullet point down. You'll see something called Catapalooza. Catapalooza is a student information fair to start the year. And what it is every different student club and organization, those 250 that I mentioned earlier, they're provided the opportunity to have a booth on the main student walkway that goes right through the center of our campus. And it's so students, as they're walking in between classes, can get their eye caught by, oh, maybe I am interested in fraternity or sorority life, or maybe I do want to join the fly fishing club, or maybe I want to get involved with the swing dancing club that we have on campus, whatever the case might be. But it's your opportunity to first hear about all these different student clubs and organizations and then pursue them, to be introduced to them. And so that takes place, like I said, at the first part of campus, or the first part of the school year, right on campus. So you don't need to make any really additional effort to go and get introduced to these opportunities. You'll just see those opportunities. You'll see those friendly faces and get those informational flyers, those points of contact as you're walking in between classes. Next up is kind of that transition, like I mentioned, to kind of close out the theories of student wellness. The theories of student support and safety and security are hugely important to Montana State University. Your safety and security, your wellness, that's the most important thing for us. And so we pay a lot of attention to it. And so on this slide here, we talk about several different things that we do and resources that we provide to ensure that students, again, have those resources at their fingertips. The main one that I actually want to talk about is sort of a joint effort that encompasses the two columns in the center of your screen, being Montana State University's Police Department and their Safety Cat app. The Safety Cat app is accessible through the Google Play Store or your Apple Store. But this is an app that was actually designed by computer science students at Montana State University that provides anything that you need in terms of student resource right on your phone, essentially. And so for any parent and family members that are joining us this evening, you probably remember back when we were in school that there was those blue light emergency phones. They were posted up all across campus. You'll still see them on campuses across the country and in shopping malls and in shopping centers and things like that. But they provided students an opportunity to pick up the receiver or push a button, and it was a one-way call that went straight to our police department that's on campus. What we found was that we had those for a long time and they were almost never utilized. And the reason for that is because they're static. They don't move with student activity. And so what does move with student activity is your phone. Everybody has one. And so they designed an app that students can access that will get you a silent witness program. It'll get you a virtual escort so that if I'm walking back from my lab space or the library and I don't leave the library until midnight, let's say, I can request my GPS location be shared with a friend that I have, and that friend can watch me get to my destination safely. If you see up in the top right hand, or the top left hand corner of that person's phone, there is that 911 call. That's a direct line to our university police department. And then who really sparked this whole thing is MSU's police department. We do have our own dedicated police force that's on our campus. They have a 1-minute response time in the circumstance of emergency to anywhere on campus. And they are phenomenal partners for students. They do more than enforce, they support. If you need an escort, one of the foot patrol officers will walk you to wherever you need to be. If your car breaks down, they'll jump your car for you. The University Police Department is so much more than just the disciplinarian hand, but they're that supportive hand, they're that guiding hand that really helps students feel that sense of security that we have on our campus. And then for the parent and family members that are joining, the MSU Alert System. We're going to continue to introduce you to this, but this is something that you all can sign up for as well. We actually just did a test of our MSU Alert System on Monday of this week. We do routine tests to ensure that it works. But if there is ever a circumstance happening on campus that we feel like students and families need to know about, we want you to know about it. So we blast out text messages, students receive information through their email, and then all that information is provided for parent and family members as well to ensure that if there is anything that happens on campus, we just want everybody to know about it so that they're aware of the safety or security concerns. In all honesty, the tests of it, those text messages that go out, that's most often when students hear it, because we are very fortunate that we have a very safe campus. We provide an annual safety and security report. You can find it on our website. We bind it. We have physical copies in our office that we give out to prospective students, because safety and security is something that we take a lot of pride in, and we take a lot of pride in it because we pay a lot of attention to it. And so if you are interested in looking at that, maybe one of our admissions counselors can throw in a link for that safety and security report that we have for the 2023, 2024, 2022, 2023 academic year. So last but not least is student wellness. And I get to talk about some of the most important, but also some of the most exciting things happening at Montana State University. At Montana State, we used to have something called the University Student Health Partners. It was very procedural, it kind of seemed rigid. And when we got our new associate vice president, Amber Long, to campus, she was the first one to start poking holes in terms of how we used to think about student wellness and start to pave a path in terms of how we think about it. And so student wellness really has a couple of different key components in it. And we look at wellness as kind of a house of cards with three primary pillars. And the student wellness aspects would be your mental health and well-being. That's covered through our counseling and psychological services. Your physical health and well-being, that's going to come through the university's medical services. And then the last thing on top of that is your physical fitness. And so with those three things, we're trying to break stigma in that if you're a student who has some personal things going on in their lives and you need to go and speak with a licensed clinician or one of our counselors on campus, that's really not any different from student B who needs to blow off their steam by going and shooting hoops or getting in the swimming pool at our fitness center. And that's really no different than student C who woke up feeling crummy and needs to go and speak with one of our nurses on campus or one of our physicians on campus. When you take away one of those three pillars, everything starts to kind of crumble in on itself. And so we are dedicated to supporting all three of those pillars through student wellness efforts. And that's the new name of what was University Student Health Partners. It's now Student Wellness. And so with medical services, as I mentioned, we have nurses and physicians on campus that you can set up an appointment ahead of time. You can do a walk-in appointment. They're currently located in the Swingle Student Health Building, and I'll talk about why I mentioned that they're currently located in there. They also have a dental services clinic that's on our campus as well, and that's literally right on our campus. It's available only for students. So even as a staff member, I can't use those services. They're not for me. They're for you as a student. The Office of Health Advancement is how we educate our students on security, prevention, or just general health matters. And so they do resource-based training. They do workshops and clinics to make sure that students know about local health concerns and how those might pertain to them as community members of both the MSU and the Bozeman communities as well. And so when I mentioned earlier that this is not only important, but it's very exciting for us, one of the most exciting things that we have coming down the pipeline right now is our new Student Wellness Center. For any of you who are joining that are going to be Bobcats starting next fall, the Wellness Center is going to be opening on your second day of classes. Thursday, August 22nd of 2024 is going to be the conclusion of what's been about a 4-year construction project. In 2019, we had such a winter that we had so much snow on the basketball courts on the gym of our fitness center that the support beams buckled, which is not a great look for a school that does both architecture and engineering. But we decided to reimagine our approach to student wellness. And so our new wellness center, when it opens next fall, it is going to be home to those efforts of student wellness with counseling and psychological services, your university student health partners, and the physical fitness side of things with your wellness center. So these are some renditions of what the building is going to look like. If I look out my window, I can see the construction project slowly coming to conclusion. But this is going to be a phenomenal space that provides resource and access to for all of our students that are going to be starting next fall and beyond. So now with that, I know I talked about a whole lot. I wanted to make sure that we talked about some of these opportunities and these resources outside the classroom. But I know that there's been questions. I've been looking at the chat as you all have been engaging throughout the evening as well with your questions. And I want to know what some of your questions are. I know I didn't leave us much time, so if we go a little bit past the top of the hour, I do apologize. But I know that there's questions out there about, whether it's the Bozeman community or getting active on campus. And so I think Andromeda is going to pepper me with some questions. So Andromeda, take it away.
Thank you so much, Andrews, for talking about all the information about student life. We had a ton of questions when students registered for the webinar. So with the time that we have, we'll just kind of highlight the most popular ones for sure.
Cool.
We talked a lot about outdoor recreation, but some students were wondering about the outdoor rec center that we have on campus with the rentals, with expeditions and workshops. Could you talk a little bit more about that?
Absolutely, yeah. So the Outdoor Recreation Center is over on the west side of our campus. It's really close to some of the larger residence halls that we have on campus. Jokingly, they're sort of described as our on-campus REI. So maybe you're a student who is really interested in getting more involved or getting more familiar with backpacking opportunities, or maybe you want to go and rent a paddleboard to go up to Highlight, like I talked about earlier. They're a rental facility. And so with your student ID card, you can rent any equipment that you need. If you need a backpack, if you need a mountain bike, if you need a longboard or ice skates or whatever the case might be, they're there for you. But for those students who are looking to get more involved and looking to get more familiar with that kind of outdoorsy community, but you don't come from that place of familiarity, they also do workshops. Montana State University, through our Outdoor Recreation Center, was the first university in the nation that had an avalanche beacon training park. So if you're a backcountry skier, you're gonna want to use a beeper or an avalanche beacon. It's one thing to have it; it's another thing to know how to use it. And so they have started putting together some really intentional kind of curriculum-based education so that students can get to know and be comfortable pursuing those outdoor opportunities that they have. They have an outdoor leadership certificate. They're a student-driven center, and they kind of provide that both professional and interpersonal opportunity to connect with the university and the surrounding area.
Awesome. That's definitely one of my favorite parts about MSU. We had a lot of questions about skiing, of course, and you definitely highlighted the ski areas around town. A frequent question was kind of wondering, kind of tying into academics, what it's like to create your class schedule around things that you want to do with outdoor recreation.
Absolutely. Cool. So, for those of you who are going to join us next fall, there's a couple of different webinars that we would encourage you to go to. They're not until this summer, what our office considers the summer, but it's where we're going to detail your orientation programming. Orientation is required of all of our incoming students, and it's actually where you'll register for classes. When it comes to blocking your schedule and kind of dedicating time for A versus B versus C, and so on, we use a program that at MSU we call CAT Course. And CAT Course is the actual software that registers you for classes, but it also allows a student to build in breaks throughout their day. And so it's sort of like buying a plane ticket. You'll put in all of the courses that you need for your course schedule. And then when you hit generate schedules, it will literally show you every option of how your schedule can bounce around. So you'll see that option A has your math class at 9 o'clock in the morning. Option B has it at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Maybe you're more of an afternoon person. Cool. Option B is the best one for you. But what building in a break does is it eliminates any course or any schedule options that would provide courses in the breaks that you build in. And so then it lets you kind of tailor fit your day. And so if you want to the best of your ability, block out your mornings, block out your afternoons, or block out a chunk of time in the middle of your day so that you can set aside time to work, it lets you really individualize and thumbprint your schedule instead of having the university just cookie cutter and give it to you. So there are certainly opportunities to engage in the outdoor experience, depending on what your final schedule ends up being.
Great. We also had a lot of questions about housing, so kind of resident advisor kind of opportunities, what it's like to get a roommate, what happens if things don't necessarily work out, what kind of residence halls are better, is newest also or always the best?
Yeah. That's a great question. I laugh about the question of what happens when you get a roommate and things don't necessarily work out. I mentioned I lived with my best friend from high school, and we saw the writing on the wall that things were starting to not work out between he and I. Our social circle was too tight. We were spending too much time with one another. And my biggest thing that I can encourage everyone, if you know your roommate or not, is get involved with things that you are interested in. And if that individual wants to loop into your circle, or if you want to loop into theirs, then that can happen organically, but don't force it. I think personal space and personal time is really valuable, incredibly important for students as they're starting their college careers. And when it comes to the question about what residence halls are better, is new always best? Um, I I personally don't know if there is an answer to that question. And the reason that I say that is at Montana State, we have 12 different residence halls that our students can choose from during their first year on campus when they're required to live on campus. There's 2 all-female residence halls, there's 1 all-male residence hall, and then the rest of the facilities are co-ed facilities. So I don't think that every single residence hall is a perfect fit for every single student, but I do honestly believe that with the 12 different options that we have, there is a perfect fit for every single student that we have coming in for that first year. So I encourage students, think honestly and internally, think about these 2 questions when you're thinking about living on campus. A, do I want to live in a single gender hall or a co-ed facility? Because if you want to live in a single gender hall, depending on your gender, like I said, 2 all-female residence halls, 1 all-male residence hall, that immediately trims your options. Then if the answer to that question is the opposite, you want to live in a co-ed facility, the next question that's important for you to answer for yourself is how many people do you want to live around? I personally, my roommate and I, we chose to live in the largest residence hall that we had at Montana State University because we wanted to meet people. And it like I said earlier, it kind of saved our friendship in the long run. But we wanted a big hall to be in that environment, that high energy environment. If you're a student who wants more of a low key environment, consider like some of the halls in the Johnstone complex, the Coulter, the Pryor, the Mullen halls. Those can be, I think, beneficial landing spots because they are the different environment. My residence hall has 512 beds in it. That's not the right fit for everybody. So then you can pursue kind of some of those different residence halls. But those 2 questions, I think, help you answer those questions or that kind of pursuit for yourself.
Great. We have a question too that kind of ties that outdoor recreation to the housing a little bit.
Yeah.
Some students were asking what kinds of outdoor recreation gear or equipment should they or can they bring? And how does that work with like storage on campus?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, different residence halls provide different opportunities. So, one of our newer residence halls, Yellowstone Hall, is opened in 2016. Yellowstone Hall has covered and secured indoor bike storage. Not all residence halls have that. South Hedges has a ski wax room. Not all halls have that. And so, for the counselors that are giving us a hand with answering things, if one of you wouldn't mind putting in that residence hall page through university student housing, you can actually look into the different amenities provided in all of the different residence halls. One thing that I did when I was living on campus is my parents lived 4 blocks from campus, but I wanted that experience of like going away to college. So I just brought all of my stuff with me. And what I did was under my bed, all the furniture in the residence halls is loftable. I attached those rubber coated shop hooks under my bed. And when it was winter, I brought my bike upstairs and hung it, and then I had my skis in my car, flip-flopped that. When the weather was nice, I had my skis in my room and my bike was outside on the bike rack right in front of my residence hall. So depending on what you do, I think I just saw the link go in. Check out the different residence halls and their different amenities because I think that will kind of help you shape a little bit of your decision about what to bring. And then when you look into the outdoor rec center, that can kind of help fill in any gaps. Maybe you're not going to bring your, fill in the blank. Maybe you're not going to bring your hardboard paddleboard. Well, then you can rent one through the outdoor rec center, your bike, so on and so forth.
Awesome. We've kind of hit our time now, so we'll kind of wrap up tonight's webinar. Thank you so much, Andres, for talking about beautiful Bozeman and kind of elaborating on how students can make the most out of their life at MSU. Kind of as a reminder to everyone, we will be uploading the recording of this webinar to our webpage, and we'll send out an email tomorrow of the recording for you to reference as needed. If you have any other questions come up or you didn't get your question answered tonight, we do have the contact information listed up there, so feel free to please take a photo of that. Follow us on Instagram. We do a lot of different updates. We have student takeovers and a lot more going on there. But thank you all to all the attendees once again for registering and for joining us tonight. Finally, a special thanks to all of our admissions counselors who are in the other room, kind of working through that Q&A, answering all of your questions live. Enjoy the rest of your evening, everyone, and as always, go Cats.
Thanks, everybody. Good to see y'all.